The Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. After Kamala's presser picking up on the hit piece in The Atlantic that focused on former Trump Chief of Staff General John Kelly's comments about Trump wanting loyalty from the generals to him rather than loyalty to the Constitution. That's the allegation that he wanted, saying something akin to, why can't you be more like the German generals and be obedient to the leader? By the way, in that Atlantic hit piece, as we discussed yesterday, the story it opened with, the story of the death of a service member, the murder of a service member at Fort Hood, has been completely repudiated by that service member's family, the Guillen family, as well as their legal representation. So let me just point of order.
Well, and also I saw them on Laura Ingraham last night too. They said they tried to get him to pull the story. Like, wait, we didn't interview. They interviewed with him months ago, almost 6 months ago. Gave them this guy Jeffrey, by the way, the same
Jeffrey
guy who said Jeffrey Goldberg, who also said suckers and losers, made up that lie. And then they found out what was going to go on last week. They called him like, pull the story. We don't want to be part of this, and he completely disrespected their wishes.
Yeah, well, timing is everything.
Yeah.
So after Kamala got done calling Trump Hitler, KJP was asked about it on behalf of the big guy, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokeswoman. And it's unanimous.
Is the president aware of John Kelly's assertion that Donald Trump meets the definition of a fascist and that Trump wanted the kinds of generals Hitler had?
I mean, look, you have heard from this president over and over again about the threats to democracy, and the president has spoken about that. You've heard from the former president himself saying that he is going to be a dictator on day one. This is him, not us. This is him. And it's not just us, the White House, saying this. You've heard it from officials, former officials that worked for the former president, say this as well. So, do we agree? I know that the vice president just spoke about this. Do we agree about that determination? Yes, we do. We do.
Well, all right, everybody agrees Trump's a fascist. Let's get a reaction, I should say, from Heather MacDonald. She's the Thomas W. Smith Fellow at the Manhattan Institute, author of When Race Trumps Merit, How the Pursuit of Equity Sacrifices Excellence, Destroys Beauty, and Threatens Lives. Heather, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
So you wrote about these prophets of doom, like Kamala and KJP and the rest of their company. Your reaction to that presser yesterday and this effort to relabel, I don't know, add more brand equity to the label that Trump is Hitler.
Well, it's preposterous. The party that has taken actual actions that resemble fascism is the Democrats. They are an absolute threat to free speech, the weaponization of the justice system to go against their enemies. There's no comparison. Trump did not collude with Google and Facebook to try and suppress legitimate scientific points of view, legitimate expression. That is what's the threat to our country. The whole fascist meme is heavily based on a deliberate bad faith misreading of an exchange that Trump had on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo when she asked him about whether he thinks there's going to be riots after the election. And he said, not from my people, but he said, we do have, lunatics and left-wing lunatics in this country, and if necessary, we would send the National Guard, or really, if necessary, the military. He was clearly referring to riots. This was transformed by Kamala Harris, by the New York Times, by the media, into him saying that he's going to call out the National Guard on people who didn't vote for him, on Democrats. That's completely a lie. He was referring specifically to Antifa thugs who destroy property, who destroy government monuments. So the case against Trump is based on deliberate misreading. Does he always speak as carefully as he should? No. He trades in hyperbole. Who trades in hyperbole as well? Democrats and Kamala Harris. There's nothing more hyperbolic than saying we are facing an existential threat from Trump.
Also the dictator on day one comment is like good people on both sides, Charlottesville. I mean, they're completely, as you described with he's enemy within, and he's going to send the military out for people who disagree with him. They're purposefully misleading. They're lies, basically. They're lies because you know what he said and you know what he intended, and you're dismissing it and you're turning it into something else anyway. And I guess my question is, the name calling, everyone who disagrees with me is Hitler is nothing new. So do you see anything that is particularly new or rises to a new level of perniciousness with respect to the political rhetoric?
Well, it's just the volume. I'm unfortunate enough to feel I should read the New York Times every day. And, it's easy to dismiss it and say, oh, come on, everybody knows it's completely discredited. Nevertheless, it still carries a lot of weight in the elite. And it's just stunning. Every single day they have a front page hit piece on him. Every single day. It is so egregiously one-sided. And so the volume of this, the unanimity among our elite organs that goes across the media into government, into the deep state, the bureaucratic agencies in the federal government, local officials, universities. It's really something, and so it's much more. I'm not going to say coordinated because I don't think there's any sort of deliberate conspiracy that people have worked on together, but there's an instinct that is endemic now to the left, which is to treat any dissent from their sacred worldview as dangerous and as inimical, and to not even try to understand it. And we, as conservatives, we live in a liberal world, and so we're surrounded by their arguments all the time, and understand them, understand their fallacies, but they really don't, and so it's maybe easy for them to completely demonize conservatives because they have no idea what the larger discourse is. They've silenced them, and then they continue to silence them based on their ignorance.
Well, it's not only the media. I mean, look at other government agencies like the FBI. When there was the ABC debate with Trump and Harris, David Muir saying, well, crime is down. But then the FBI quietly released revised numbers saying that they missed 1,699 murders, which is so appalling if one of your loved ones is one of those statistics. But why is it that crime is not being discussed at all, or law and order, on this campaign trail with Kamala Harris?
Well, Kamala Harris isn't discussing it because she knows, I assume, that despite what they say about the numbers going down, and I don't think that was deliberate on the FBI's part. I think it was just sloppy. But the fact of the matter is that any American that's been into a city recently has seen the disorder, has seen the squalor, has seen the shoplifting. We've seen the videos of these kids that are allowed to be completely feral because nobody wants to prosecute black criminals. The entire criminal justice system now is driven by one issue, that is race and racial disparate impact. That's why we're not enforcing the law. It's all about race. But the cities are out of control. When Kamala did bring it up, she did bring this up in an interview on The Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the God. It was clear that she is still committed to her previously stated view that policing is systemically racist. She expressed opposition to stop, question, and frisk, which is the most effective tactic to getting guns off the street. You in Chicago, I mean, you've got drive-bys constantly. Yesterday there was a drive-by in Rogers Park, 1 dead, 2 injured. The day before, on Tuesday, a 15-year-old was killed in Woodland. This just goes on and on and on and on. Kamala doesn't want to talk about blacks killing other blacks. The Black Lives Matter activists don't want to talk about blacks killing other blacks. All they can talk about is police racism. If she gets in power, she'll have the rhetorical bully pulpit to continue demonizing the police. She'll have the federal power of consent decrees. I mean, Chicago is straining under its consent decree there. She'll put more on police departments around the country. So it's going to be Biden administration, demonization of cops, ad infinitum.
I wanted to have you elaborate on your take on the vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Field Marshal Tim Walz there a few weeks back, because I thought it was an interesting take, with the moderators Brennan and O'Donnell. The upshot is that what you saw on that stage is indicative of the fact that no matter who wins, the feminization of America continues. So what did you see, and why do you think that's so, and what does that implicate?
Well, the moderators, it was a quintessentially female debate in their choice of topics, of course, in their little snarky, put-downs of Vance all the time. Yes, Senator, yes, Senator. Oh, we have so much to get to. Please, Senator, you're cutting them off. We have so much to get to. But the questions they chose represent what a feminized worldview is. Child care, family leave. This is not a major federal issue. The federal government constitutionally has nothing to do with paid family leave and child care. But under the feminized nanny state, it does. Housing costs, again, these are not federal issues. The classic was how they dealt with the immigration topic. The immigration topic is about the porous border and the refusal to enforce the law on the part of the Biden-Harris administration. Instead, they turned the border issue into a cudgel with which to bludgeon Vance. Their question was, are you really going to separate families if you want to deport illegal alien criminals? Will you separate families? Again, typical female, sentimental, avoiding the hard issues, avoiding the central issue, and putting Vance on the defensive. And that family separation was also the big issue under Trump when he was trying to deport criminals. There's a way to deal with it. The deportation issue, you self-deport by enforcing laws on work. But anyway, they do not have the capacity to think about things in hard cost-benefit analyses. Of course, global warming was a big issue, and abortion. I mean, we've all become so inured to feminists controlling the discourse that we do think that abortion is like issue number one in the American polity. Sorry, it is not. It is not the main issue facing our country. The main issue facing our country is the economy, the quality of our culture. Are we going to be able to continue with Western civilization, or are we going to continue tearing it down? Are we going to destroy ourselves through mass immigration, bringing in cultures that will not assimilate? But the feminized worldview only looks at the world in terms of a certain set of victims, and we saw the COVID response, classic safetyist feminism. Be safe. That was the mantra. Be safe. It made me sick. And refusing to think about costs and benefits of shutting down the economy. Are you causing more harm than you are preventing? Is COVID really the biggest harm? What about heart disease? What about cancer? What about car accidents? But the females are now, males are an endangered species. White males are the last to be admitted to any institution. The highly qualified white males are not getting admitted to medical schools, to law schools. They're not getting promoted in medicine. Every mainstream institution celebrates the demise of white males by celebrating the elevation of less qualified intersectional candidates.
Not your typical female. Heather MacDonald, Thomas W. Smith Fellow at the Manhattan Institute, author of When Race Trumps Merit, How the Pursuit of Equity Sacrifices Excellence, Destroys Beauty, and Threatens Lives. Heather, excellent. Thank you as always.
Thanks so much, Dan and Amy.
Thank you, and she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Jim Durkin, founding partner of the Martech Group, a global market research firm based in Chicago since 1985 and a longtime customer of Signature Bank. When our business moved to our current Loop location, I recall seeing Mick O'Rourke and his two business partners, Brian Duncan and Kevin Bastuga, laying the foundation for Signature Bank. When Signature opened its doors in 2006, I was proud to move our accounts there and